Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to IVMF Technical Assistance Program Office Hours. My name is Mirza Tikic. I'm the Director of Program Services here at IVMF. Today, we're just going to talk quickly a little bit about starting or setting a business as a franchise. Since last time we had office hours, several of you inquired to talk about how do you set a business as a franchise. After we're done with that, please post any questions on Google Plus as well as on YouTube, and you're also welcome to join us live in the chat room if you're available. That said, let's start the presentation. So setting a business as a franchise, first of all, let's define what a franchise means, right? A franchise is a form is a business form, a form of business organization in which a firm already has a successful product or service, the franchisor, and enters into a continual contractual relationship with other businesses, franchisee, operating under the franchisor's trade name and usually with franchisor's guidance in exchange for a fee or idea. So in order to start a franchise, you first have to have an existing business or existing product or service. And you don't have to have actually existing business. You can go into a business knowing that you want to be a franchise one day, and then you have to structure your operations and everything else that comes along in the mindset that one day you will be nationwide or international franchise. Just quickly, who are the some well-known franchises these days? If you look at around yourself, you'll find that Snap-on has about 3,300 franchises around the world. 7-Eleven, there are more than 6,000 7-Eleven stores in the United States. Aaron's, more than 1,700 of them. Panera Bread, and Serpro. All these businesses are franchises, and most of them have a similar working model. The differences in fine details, which we will actually cover in a few minutes. But just to give you some example of understanding what a franchise is. There are different types of a franchise. You have a product or trademark and business service franchise. When we talk about product or the trademark, right? So if I'm a Chevrolet, I do have trademark, right? I have protected name, I have a protected brand. So anything that has to do with Chevy, if I want to do T-shirts, for example, with a logo, from the Chevy logo, I have to get the permission from Chevrolet in order to do it. And usually the permission means that I have to pay Chevrolet a certain fee for every product that I put their logo or their name on it. At the same time, if I'm a dealership, if I want to open a dealership, I can go and sell Chevy cars or trucks or products. Again, we have to enter into agreement because I'm going to be representing Chevy as a franchise, as a dealer. Similarly for Chrysler as well as Coca-Cola. So all of these really have products, and you can sell products versus you can also have trademark. So if I'm, again, similar example with Chrysler and Coca-Cola, anytime I want to use their name, their brand, their logo, I have to get the permission. And once I have the permission, usually that means that I have to talk to the lawyers and get a contract and pay a certain fee for every time I use the product or service. On the other hand, we have a business or service franchise, which are typically restaurants that we know, like McDonald's, KFC, and Pizza Hut. So when you go into an agreement with these, when you represent them, basically you are kind of independent owner, but you have to use the menu, you have to use the products, you have to buy from certain suppliers. Mostly their own company provides those supplies. You have to have certain arrangements within the restaurant itself. You have to get approved for a location and so on. So two differences here. So you have to think about, will you be a more product or trademark franchise, or will you be a business or service franchise? So that's in kind of in a nutshell what are the two major types of a franchise. What are some of the benefits? Why would you want to go into owning a franchise business? As first of all, when you're a franchise and you have established a big name, you're going to have a brand, and a lot of folks will be willing and able to work for you. So you have better access to talented individuals. So franchising is a great way to find talented people to manage your locations and give them an incentive to work hard for you. As you know, when you start up your business, you always need the capital. But once you have a model, right, that works, then if you want to expand, the franchise is an easy way to expand because it gives you easy expansion capital, right? Franchise is a good way to obtain expansion capital because your franchisees pay to buy outlets in your chain. You can grow the number of locations without really tapping much of into your own capital or needing to request financing from banks or investors. It's really the franchisee who invests. So, for example, if you want to buy, if you're a Subway and I want to franchise a Subway, I have to put down, I believe, about $120,000, and I have to secure the location. So me as a franchisee, I put a lot of line, and I work with the bank and investors to get location and to get the needed funding to get this franchise open in my location. And as a franchisor, I'm going to provide support in terms of the brand that's already existing, the products and services that they have. We're going to provide training, we're going to provide marketing. So you don't have to really put a lot of capital, startup capital into starting or opening new locations. So you leverage and you can scale what you already have in-house. And you can, if you have a marketing department, and you can grow the marketing department much easier, and you can scale it much easier because with 5 people and considering the social media we have, you can still reach the entire nation and even the world if you do it effectively. Also, if you have a franchise business or you plan to open a franchise business, it helps you minimize the growth risk. The franchising can generate high financial returns for relatively little risk. When you franchise, you put relatively little money into adding each location. The percentage returns you earn can be many times what you would have earned if you open and rent out the outlets yourself. So again, less capital, also lesser risk for you failing. So if you don't invest much money, your risk actually decreases. Bearing in mind that you have to have a working model, you have to have a model that is sustainable, that works, that is, and we'll talk about it shortly in terms of what it entails to have what you need to have in place so you can replicate that franchise. Next slide. The overall feasibility of a franchise, when you talk about franchise, this is what I mentioned to you before. You have to, first it starts with, if you look on the left side, lots of legal documents, right? You have to, when you develop it, it's highly recommended, it's a must to work with a lawyer, and not any lawyer. You should find a lawyer who is experienced in franchising. So when you think about starting a business already and you have in mind that you want to be a franchise, it is highly recommended that you already talk to a lawyer now who knows about franchises. Even though if you're going to be a franchise, you plan to start franchising in 5 years from now on, you want to know where do you have to be in place? What place do you want to find yourself in 5 years so you don't worry about any legal documents or how you can replicate what you're trying to do, right? As a franchise, you have to have a detailed marketing plan. You have to understand who your market is. So whatever products or services you're selling, or if you're planning to trademark or license any of your logos or brand that you have to understand who your customers are and how many of them are there in, let's say, United States, if you plan to franchise only in the United States, or in the world, how far. And you have to understand what are the limitations of that market, what are the opportunities. You have to understand how that market buys, how it adapts to new trends, and what are the switching costs and so on. So really, the more you know about the market, the better it's going to be for you, as well as particularly when you're trying to sell a franchise, that you explain to your franchisees what opportunities are. You have to be careful also not to cannibalize your own markets. You don't want to open too many restaurants in a location as a franchise that your franchisee will be competing with each other. So you want to make them happy as well. So these are so many. These are some of the many important details that you have to pay attention. It really comes down to understanding who your market is, how they buy, how often they buy, what will bring them to you. And this will also help you create better brand awareness, because as a franchise, the more locations you have, the higher the frequency of the population seeing your name out there not only on the streets, but also then once you do your promotions and national advertisement. And of course, you're going to do mostly promotions there where you are located or where the franchisees are located. So that will increase your brand awareness, which also brings me to a point that when you franchise to somebody, you give a franchise, have a franchisee, you have to make sure that you have everything in place so that the brand sustains the way it is or makes it even better. You don't want to have somebody who's going to ruin your franchise. So that's where the legal documents come. That's where the contract between you and the franchisor comes in terms of what they can and cannot do, and what harms, what doesn't harm the brand of your franchise. What you also have to develop, talking about legal documents, is that you have to create a smooth operation, right? You have to establish systems of operation, how everything's going to run in your current location, perfect processes and procedures, have everything in place, and then develop training for that. Once you have that in place, then you want to replicate these processes and procedures as an operating model anywhere you go. So most probably you've been to Subway. So if you go to Subway, you always have the same setup. No matter where you are in Subway, there might be different wall painting, but when you go in, how it's set up, who greets you, how the flow goes of the food, who makes the food, the location of the ovens, the location of the deli meat, the location of the produce, the location of cash, it's always the same. They always they follow always the same process, and you can always expect to get the same quality of food, either if you Subway down New York City, Subway in Syracuse, New York, or you down Tallahassee, Florida. It's the same product, same taste, it's the same experience you're getting when you go into a franchise. So that's when we talk about establishing system operations, that's what we're talking about. And then you have to have somebody who will train your franchisee, and that's what we talk about, a long-standing training program. All these have to be part of the legal documents, so it kind of goes in circle here. And not only once you have the training, part of the training program becomes also brand awareness, becomes the marketing plan, becomes also the corporate support. You as a corporation that you're going to be one day, you have to provide that support. You have to provide these trainings on an ongoing basis. If you have to develop new products to provide promotional opportunities for your franchisors. Right, you know, I'm using the Subway as an example. The $5 footlong, right? That came from the corporate. The corporate was very innovative and has been able to nationally promote these things, again, enabling their franchisees to increase the sales. Part of the system is also strict rules. So you have to follow these rules, and these are the operational rules. These are the branding rules, which ties back to the lots of legal documents, right? And you're doing all these strict rules and training so you can avoid any trouble that can impact your business negatively, right? If your Subway is impacted negatively in central New York, we have a case of, let's say, somebody gets food poisoning, suddenly, you know, what a local news can spread very fast to be national news, and can have a, I'm not sharing. I got a message from.
You're just sharing the PowerPoint itself, not the actual slide. So we're still seeing just setting a business as a franchise.
Okay, let me.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure.
No, thanks for doing this. I'm trying to see my share screen. I'm gonna just share the. Okay, I'm back. I'm gonna do full screen. And then. So do you see now?
Yeah, we see the presenter view.
Oh man. Okay, let me get out of this. Share.
Okay, that's uh,
1 sec. I'm gonna. Okay.
if you
How
just
about now?
there we go.
All
That's
right.
good.
So this is the. I apologize. This is the what I just talked about. How everything kind of leads the feasibility of a franchise. So I start on the left side with lots of legal documents and how it kind of ties in with the having the right corporate structure and corporate support to be able to continue implement the marketing plan, but also continuously study the market and come up with new innovations. The legal documents also protect your brand awareness, so it prevents you from having any negative impact locally. As I mentioned, if you have somebody getting food poisoning subway in central New York, it can quickly spread through the news and the social media and become a national issue. Suddenly, where there were no issues, let's say in California, people will be hesitant to go to subway because the one here in central New York kind of damaged the reputation of the overall brand. And the legal documents also have to include all the fees that you're gonna have to agree with your franchisees in terms of how much how much they will have to pay you and what the nature of the agreement will be. And talking about the nature, let me quickly cover also the relationship of the franchising. So some of the elements that you as a franchisor have to think about. Will you be the one handling it, or you want the franchisees to handle it? For example, site selection, right? The franchisor typically oversees and approves. And this is really important because, again, as I mentioned before, you don't want to cannibalize your market. You don't want to have your restaurants or service providers competing with each other, because if they compete with each other too much, they will be competing for same customers, and that kind of hurts the. It can hurt your business. And then the franchisee can actually recommend and suggest locations that they have, and then you can approve that location, again, to prevent cannibalization and to prevent any somebody opening a location, let's say in central New York, but there's no market. And if you don't have market and you close, it kind of looks bad for your business. Your goal is really to have to open you because your goal is to have successful franchises, so other people will be interested in franchising. But if you close in central New York, you will just give a message that you did not understand the market, you did not give sufficient support, so people who might be interested in working with you as a franchise might walk away and look for other opportunities. Another elements are the employees. The franchisor makes general recommendations and provides training suggestions. You can provide, in terms of recommendations, provide job description, tasks, what needs to be done. But the franchisee is the really one who hires, manages, and fires employees, which is really, when if you look at especially the restaurant business, there's a high turnover. You as a franchisor don't have to worry about human resources and dealing and training people constantly. Looking at another element is the other products and services. So you as a franchisor determine the products or service line. You're the one who develop it and then introduces it. So I mentioned the idea of, right, the $5 foot long or whatever they have new subs coming to Subway. It is really the corporate, it's the franchise that develops these and then introduces to the franchisees. The franchisees can modify, but again, with your approval, if you franchise, the franchisee can modify with your approval, and these are some another important aspects that you have to put in those legal documents. And then the prices, you as a franchisor should recommend them, but the franchisee should set the final prices. Again, depends on on the location, but it's something that you can recommend because you understand the market, you have done the market. So subway might cost differently here than a sub in Syracuse, New York, than a subway at the airport. Again, the costs at the airport are a little bit different. There's not only the costs are different, but also the opportunities to supply and demand, it might be different as well. So you want to allow your franchisees to make the most for the investments. So this was quick overview of the making decisions, or some important decisions you have to think about when opening franchise. And just to quickly summarize, some key decisions have to be done. First, ask the question: is your business franchisable? Think your products or services, and do you want to do licensing? Is this feasible? How feasible it is, and what will it take you? I can recommend talking to a lawyer who has franchise experiences. Look at other franchises, study other franchises, how they've started, what they have done to create a sustainable model, and what will take you, how long will it take you to create a sustainable model that is replicable and that you can start rolling out. Think about also how big is the opportunity. If it's only feasible for New York City, is this really feasible for the rest of the country? And if yes, what are the places and how big is the opportunity? How many can you really have? I'm talking again about the cannibalization. You don't want to overlap and kind of compete for the same folks within your franchisors. And the next thing is then, once you know that there's opportunity, once you know that your business is franchisable, the products or services or that you have, then you want to think about really the franchising fee and royalty percentage. You want to think about the term of your franchise agreement. How much will you take on yourself to do these things as a franchisor, and how much will you give to the franchisee? Talking about those few elements we just covered on the previous slide. You want to also talk about the size of territory you'll award each of your franchisees. Again, you have to understand the market, understand how big the opportunity is, what geographic area are you willing to offer franchisees within. You also want to think about is only one location per franchisor available, or will you allow an individual to have more franchise locations? It's up to you. I know that, for example, Subway, they allow you to have 3 or 4 or 5, so it's up to you how many you can afford. And again, as a franchisee, it is scalability. The more you have, you just have to manage the managers and be able to cover the territory that you are in. And think about, you have to make a decision on what the type and the length of training program you will offer to your franchisees. What is the frequency of a new training? How often will you do this? You have to think also about whether the franchisees must buy products or equipment from your company, or will they buy for somebody else? Right, so we talk, for example, I'll give you an example of the Subway. They have the main headquarters where they produce certain products and they deliver it to the franchisors. So do you want to be, and that is encouraged if you have the operations to do it, because you're saving money and you are, instead of giving somebody else a business, you are the one really delivering and making the delivery and supply profit within the company. So it's not a revenue generating venue for you. The decision you have to make is the business experience and what franchisees need. What will qualify somebody to be a great franchise? What is the optimal person that you want to have run that franchise? Remember, your goal is to have a successful replication of your franchise, because the more successful those locations are, the more appealing will you be to other investors who want to have a franchises. The more successful will you be, and the more successful you are, of course, the revenue will be also higher, and there will be growth. You have to make a decision also how you will market the franchises, knowing, so now you have 2 markets. You have the end users who want to buy products or services from your franchises, and then also you have the other customer or other market, which are the potential franchisees, right? So how do you market yourself to them? And again, it's very important that you have a sustainable model that's working, that's easily replicable, that you have a track of success, and so on. And finally, you have to make a decision on whether you want an owner operator for each unit, on area master franchisee who will develop multiple units. And I touched upon this previously, where you can either have only one, or you can allow people to have more than one. With that said, I'll open up for if there's any questions, either here live or on YouTube and Google+.
There was a Michelle Fansteel asked, can you share that list if we email you?
Of course I can. My video for some guys, let me do settings quickly. Any other questions?
That's all that's out there right now, Misha.
All right. Well, sounds good. This has been recorded, so we will post this on our IVMF channel on YouTube. Everybody, thanks for watching. Please join us again every first Wednesday in the month, 2 p.m. IVMF Technical Assistance Program office hours. I'm here to answer any questions. If you have any questions in advance, please submit them to me. Once you watch this webinar, also if you have any additional questions or you want me to cover anything one more time, I'll be happy to do so within a month. That said, thanks for watching and listening. Look forward to see you in 4 weeks. Thank you and keep entrepreneuring. Thanks, Jim.